Hey everyone, Dan here. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And also keep in mind, these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. Enjoy.
All right, so quick check-in on Draftkings here. Draftkings, since it lost this uptrend support, has been really in a world of pain. A nice double bottom down here in the 27 range. And now it's looking like maybe it's going to be able to consolidate around this, say, 29.45 to 31.85 area. And maybe that'll give it an opportunity to build a range and then move. I mean, even then, it obviously doesn't mean that it's going to move to the upside. As we saw, it briefly consolidated here for a few days and then made a strong break to the downside again. This is, I'm trying to see if this is the first sort of like strong double bottom that we've had in a while. Yeah. So, I mean, there was this one, but definitely not as strong as this most recent one. This was down 9%, up 8% on back-to-back days. So, that's a little bit more in line. But otherwise, I think 29.45, if that can't hold as support, 27.48, that recent low would be the most logical area for it to try to catch support again. But yeah, it's putting in its fourth day of this little range here, so I would just wait to see what it does there and then which way it's going to break from that point in order to decide, what might be in store in the coming days and weeks. All right, peace. All right, so taking a quick look at Lemonade here, it immediately looks like it has a couple of things going on that I'd point out. One, it's obviously caught in this pretty long-term downtrend channel, and that's obviously will need to be broken if it wants to change this trajectory in any way. But the other thing that I'd look at is also this sort of range that it's building. I would say about like this range here. And I would keep a close eye on that to see if it continues to do that for a few days and then makes a strong break one direction or another. It's a pretty big range, but you could bring this down to about 49.50, but you're going to immediately hit some resistance here on 53 anyway. But if you wanted to, you could look at it sort of that way. So that's the first thing that I'd look at. Or if it breaks to the downside, obviously that's the other possibility, right? It could range bound itself within here and then break to the downside, of course. If we scroll back something around the $44 level, last time we were here, it was way back in the early stages. So I look for like 44.61 at this point to be nearest resistance. And then to the downside, it's kind of a question of where is the floor? I don't know. But 56.08 is another level for resistance to the upside. And then, like I said, there'll definitely be some resistance here just from the recent price action, right around 53 or so. So that's what I would look for on that end of things, but it's going to need to do something, just more concrete reversal or build itself a base and then make a strong move out of that base in order to get out of this really terrible downtrend that it's been in, and sort of trying to figure out what its floor is for the time being. So kind of a tricky one, but that's what I would keep an eye on. All right, catch you later. Quick check-in here, Roku. Roku in sort of an interesting position at the moment. So it had this big gap up. You see here up over 18%. That after coming up over 2 and over 3 the days leading up to that, and then drawing down 8%, and now today down about 2. But it is situating itself, interestingly enough, on a rejection of that 34 EMA to the upside, and then trying to grab support today on the 12 EMA. Now, if it can hold that, I would look for it to either kind of start to put in a base here, and then decide a direction that it wants to move after that, or look for that 12 EMA to kind of lift it back toward that 34 to test that again. Now, obviously, the kind of danger to the downside here for any bulls would be this gap, right? So it obviously left this gap, and at this point it has, say this much left to fill if it wants to come down and fill it. So I would keep an eye on that. That could bring it down to at least say 221. You never know what that downtrend momentum might bring with it, so just be kind of cautious of that. Looking back at previous price action here to try to find any levels, I would look at this is much higher, 230s. I mean, there's right around here is probably a pretty strong level, 236, and then below that's right around here, 223. So I'd look to sort of see what it does around those levels, and then with more recent price action, this level playing a bit of a role, but then there might be some relatively smooth selling if it wants to come up and try to fill this gap to the upside, up here to about nearly 269. But yeah, that's what I look for the time being. What's it going to do with these EMAs? Is it needing to stretch down to try to fill that gap? Is it able to make another run up and retest those 34 EMAs to the upside, or what? And then what does it do with these support and resistance levels? All right, catch you later. All right, quick check-in on Norwegian Cruise Lines here. So it's come up recently to fill this gap, and I would just be a little bit cautious for kind of a couple of reasons. I mean, I guess we can put the wick gap in there, is fine. There's downtrend resistance, it looks to me. I haven't drawn this in yet, but let's see. And there's downtrend resistance here that it seems to kind of still be holding, or having a really hard time breaking through. So that's what I would look for on the bull side of things. Can it actually break through this downtrend resistance that's been holding for quite a while and then push itself through the rest of this gap? To the extent to which there's not much resistance in there, I would look for it to continue to push through that gap, because this bit of like wick action may not have been an astounding enough volume in order to really consider, that it filled the gap. And so there might be some more like possible action there. Now, the sort of like downside to it being this gap right now is there's also not a ton of support at the moment. The support level that I'd really look at to hold if it falls back through here would be this like 2109 level. And then to the upside, get rid of this. To the upside, I would look. This level is still holding quite strong. Let's say right about here. Let's say right about here. Probably a little bit better. 2246 to the upside. If it's able to flip that from resistance to support, that's going to be the best opportunity for it to get some mojo working from, a support and resistance perspective. Also, holding this 12 EMA support would go a long way to helping it get enough gusto to work its way through the rest of this gap again and make an attempt at that 2246. Yeah, that's what I would look at as being sort of the most critical components on the chart for the time being. All right, peace. All right, quick check-in on Palantir here. Now, it's kind of pinning itself to these levels that we have on the chart, 1930 at the moment. Kind of dipped down here into a bit of like no man's land. I guess these previous candle bodies were consuming a bit of that, but it's just overall getting a little thin for support and resistance levels. But what I would look at on for the time being is this downtrend resistance that you see here, that it's tried to break and then is getting sucked back down into, right? So I would keep a strong eye on that and see how that wants to play out. But it catches the wicks here, catches the body of this candle. Like I said, this one tried to come through, but it was an overall red day, so it drew itself back down underneath there, and that will certainly have some sort of interplay with this 1930 level. I would also say that it's putting in kind of a shorter term level right around here. You see this sort of pivot point between this candle and this candle, and then near support on the wicks of those candles. So I'd watch that level as well. That's 1892. It's very, very close to where the price action is at the moment, and see, what it does if it continues to compress itself in between this downtrend resistance and that potential support level. If it's able to sort of like give it any clear break in either direction. All right, I'll catch you later. All right, taking a look here at CFLT, coming down into basically like 100% retracement level. If you think of, this run up and then a pullback, consolidated, brief run up, consolidated, big run up. So it's pulling back basically to this consolidation point here, which I would place this support level right about here, a bit below where the candle body is at the moment. That would 63.86 as I would see it. Now if it loses support there, it does have additional support pretty close in. Probably the stronger support is here, is 61.49. So I mean, percentage wise, a decent drawdown if it does come down further. Now it may just have a ton of resistance to get through if it does want to turn things around. That said, it has this history of kind of putting in these ranges and then moving. So I would look for it to start to do that. So it essentially needs to kind of break this downtrend resistance that it has going at the moment, and then potentially either like a nice strong break and trend reversal there, or consolidates and basically gear itself up for its next move. I would put this right about here probably, and don't know if that next move will be to the upside or the downside, obviously, but pretty tight in with the candle body today on this downtrend resistance, but it's pretty steep also. So I'd look for it to try to work itself out from there, build itself a range, kind of track the upper bound and lower bound of the range, and then look and see when it's going to make a strong break one direction or another from there. EMA is not really helpful at the moment. MA, it's not old enough yet. So that's what I would keep an eye on from a chart perspective for the time being. All right, peace.